Every week, thousands of cruise passengers get to see and experience mind-boggling things on cruise ships, like go-kart tracks, water shows, ice rinks, water slides, and even roller coasters. But not many have seen some of the things that I have, until now. I'm Gary Bembridge, welcome aboard as I show you 7 jaw-dropping things only a few get to see on cruise ships. While you may have been on one, possibly unknowingly, I've actually seen this being done. The very first ship that I sailed on that had been sliced in half and had a new midsection added was MSC Armonia. It was so seamless and so hard to tell that she'd been stretched that I was desperate to see how it was actually done. So I managed to convince Silversea to let me go and see their Silver Spirit ship being cut in half at the Fincantieri shipyard in Palermo. It was jaw-dropping. Now, I actually arrived on day 6 after the ship had arrived in dry dock, and I saw the final cuts being made. Over the course of just one day, the shipyard pulled the 2 halves of the ship apart. They were both resting on rollers. Then, in a surprisingly rapid maneuver, a massive pre-built 49-foot, 19-deck high section was driven into the gap. Then the ship sections were pushed together and she was welded up. The new section added more passenger and crew cabins, new restaurants, and increased the size of the pool even. Why do lines do this? Well, it costs between $500 million and $1 billion to build a new ship. The Silversea edition only cost $70 million. Only $70 million versus those other eye-watering numbers. It happens more frequently, though, than you might expect, so you may well have sailed on such a ship without even knowing that you're seeing it. I'm often asked if I've seen famous people on a cruise ship. So if you count the British royal family, movie stars like Sophia Loren, and singers like Sarah Brightman, then absolutely yes, I have. I've seen all of them at cruise ship naming ceremonies. Sophia Loren for MSC Preziosa in Genoa, Sarah Brightman for Seabourn Encore in Singapore. But the most memorable ones were when the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II named Pinot Britannia in Southampton, and the second was when Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, as she was known then, named Saga Spirit of Discovery in Dover. Why does this happen, and what exactly are they doing? All those famous ladies I mentioned are godmothers of the ships that they named. Now, new ships have always had some sort of ceremony to offer good luck to the ship and those sailing within her. Vikings, for example, reportedly had human sacrifices, but these days it's a little less dramatic and ships just go as far as having godmothers instead. It's almost always a woman who takes that title, although I can think of one example where it wasn't. The Latin American rapper Pitbull was given the role of godfather to Norwegian Escape in 2015. The cruise ship godmother is supposed to bring good luck and protection to the vessel, but all they really do is go to the ship's official naming ceremony, bless her, and wish all who sail in her good luck. It's now probably more kind of a marketing PR activity, which is why they use big names like Sophia Loren, Queen Elizabeth, and the Duchess of Cornwall. The cruise line invites guests, throws in some entertainment, a posh meal, and most importantly, smashes a bottle of champagne on the side of the ship. Everyone waits patiently because if that bottle doesn't break, it signals really bad luck. So when you're next on a cruise ship, by the way, look for a large framed photo, usually somewhere near guest services, to see who the godmother is. Other famous godmothers include Oprah Winfrey, who was godmother on Holland America's New Statendam, I was on recently, and Duchess of Cambridge for Royal Princess, I was on last year. On board the latter, Royal Princess, you'll actually find a display of the dress she wore for the ceremony, the champagne bottle, and other memorabilia. Talking of traditions and ceremonies of significance to cruise ships, ones that even fewer people get to see and even more remarkable to experience is the keel laying ceremony. This also dates back centuries and is wrapped with even more superstition. I've been to the keel laying of Silversea Silver Muse in the Fincantieri shipyard in Genoa and the Saga Spirit of Adventure in the Meyer Werft shipyard in Germany. Now, this marks the official start of the building of the ship. 2 coins are placed on a block, and then the keel, the hull of the ship, is laid on top of those coins. The ship is then built with those coins at the base of the keel. Now, once the ship is complete and before the dry dock is filled with water so the ship can sail out, the coins are normally then removed and they're welded somewhere on board for the whole life of the ship. Centuries ago, they were actually placed under or at the bottom of one of the ship masks. Nowadays, they often tend to be welded around the base of the radar mask. So next time you're on a ship, see if you can find those coins. On my recent Viking Sky, for example, I discovered they were welded behind a small little glass pane in a very public area up on deck so guests can look at them. This is the same on many, many ships. You'll find the coins in some sort of publicly accessible areas. So go take a look for them. Only a few people actually get to see a keel laying ceremony though. The ones I've attended were small in numbers. There's maybe just 20 of us in total, standing in the shipyard, down in the dry dock, seeing the creation of a cruise ship is mind-boggling. So while I'm talking about cruise ship ceremonies, there is one that many more do get to see, like I did on Queen Mary 2 sailing between Sydney and Dubai, and on Queen Victoria sailing between Hawaii and Sydney. And that's the crossing the line ceremony. There is another long-standing tradition. It started in the Navy, which celebrates the very first time that a sailor crosses the equator. So sailors and guests like me who've crossed the equator are known as trusty shellbacks. And those who've not previously crossed the line are slimy pollywogs. So as the cruise ship crosses the equator, Neptune, who's the god of the sea, and his queen, they arrive on board. They arrive with a judge who holds court along with the ship's senior officers. So volunteer pollywogs from the guests, those who haven't crossed the equator, are then paraded before them, and they're each charged with various offences, for example, of eating too much or dressing so badly. Now, if they're found guilty, which they all are, they then have to kiss a fish before being covered in slimy goop and thrown into the swimming pool. Crew who are pollywogs go through the same process. No one is safe at a crossing the line ceremony. Now, whilst this whole event may not be, I guess, as jaw-droppingly amazing as maybe a go-kart track or a roller coaster on a ship, the event is so memorable, it feels so significant and important, and it's also a lot of fun and a great laugh, and I hope you get to see that one day. Now, something though that I kind of hope you don't get to see, but is at the same time quite a spectacle, is when a passenger or crew member is airlifted off the ship. Now, most new cruise ships have a helicopter pad, either for a helicopter to land on or hover above. This is so they're able to winch people off in a medical emergency. So medevacs happen if someone on board needs urgent medical attention, but the nearest port or rescue vessel is much too far away. And it's the only option often, unfortunately, when a person is critically ill. Now, I've been on several cruise ships where this has happened. The most recent one was last year on P&O Cruises Britannia, just off the coast of the UK. Now, when it happens, guests, you normally have to stay inside. You have to stay away from the side that the helicopter is approaching from. The crew prepare the helicopter pad, removing any barriers that may be there. The helicopter sweeps in and lands, or as I mentioned, more usually lowers a winch and lifts the person needing medical attention up onto the helicopter. Now, it is quite a spectacle, and it's a really difficult maneuver for the pilots and for the ship. Although, of course, we must always remember and we must always be respectful of the individual because they're there for a reason that is pretty distressing for them. But it still remains one of the most impressive things that I've seen on a cruise ship. If you've seen pictures of cruise ships going through the Panama Canal, you'll know there are places in the world where larger ships have to squeeze through various lock systems or narrow beds of water. I've actually seen this firsthand on Holland America's Connings Dam, Cunard's Queen Victoria, and Oceania Cruises Marina. However, this experience, like in the Panama Canal, was completely elevated when I got to sail through the Corinth Canal in Greece. This tiny canal is only 70 feet wide, 26 feet deep, and the sides rise 300 feet, and it's 4 miles long. It's such a tight space that very few cruise ships can actually fit through, and even those cruise lines with ships that can make it through often prefer not to risk it, sailing the long way around instead. I had the jaw-dropping and tense experience of seeing it happen on Windstar Cruises' Star Breeze, which just slid literally her way through. It was incredible. Seeing the ship squeeze through this tiny little space, it's something that very few people will ever get to do because there are so few ships that can do it. But I hope you get a chance to do that. Another activity which more people do get to see whilst on cruise ships, but is still quite eye-catching and a bit dangerous, is something I've seen in the Arctic and Antarctica. Now, personally, I've never done it because I think it's absolutely crazy. In fact, on my last Antarctica trip on Ponant, they didn't do it at all because they too think it's just too risky. And this is the polar plunge. Passengers and crew jump into the icy cold Arctic or Antarctica waters, normally off the ship. It's become a kind of badge of honor and tradition. So on a Silversea Arctic cruise that I went on, over half the guests on the ship did it though. Now my partner Mark did it in the Arctic. He said the problem with jumping off the side of the ship is he went in rather deep, so he was under freezing cold water for longer than he wanted to be. Now you'll notice how fast people are rushing to get out. Imagine kind of Usain Bolt, but of the swimming world. I've never seen people move quite so fast. If you found this interesting, why not watch this video of things I've found lurking around cruise ships in plain sight that I and you probably have missed, starting with one thing I discovered due to an incident on a ship I was on recently. See you over there.